As COP27 starts later today in Egypt, Rishi Sunak will be urging world leaders to move further and faster in transitioning away from fossil fuel. He's pledging to make the UK a clean energy superpower.
Yes, interesting. The Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg has claimed that the event is actually greenwashing the whole issue, and she's not going to be attending. Meanwhile, Egyptian authorities have had to add additional security measures in Sharm el-Sheikh due to local protests.
Well, author of Why Climate Breakdown Matters, Professor Rupert Read, joins us now. Good to see you this morning. What do you make of all of this? I mean, do you have any hope of COP27 actually achieving a great deal?
Very little. You know, we sort of play this game every year, don't we? We go into a new climate COP hoping that it's going to give us something real, maybe asking for this and that, saying they ought to do better on reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and they ought to make bigger promises. But, well, as my young friend and colleague Great Thunberg says, it's mostly just blah, blah, blah. And we can't go on like this. It's been going on like this for 26 years. So I was at Glasgow COP26 last year. I'm not going to be going to more COPs so far as I can see in the future. I think it's time for governments and leaders to get real. What would really be game-changing would be if instead of making more ridiculous promises that are not backed up by his actions, Rishi Sunak were to turn up in Egypt and to say, you know what, I'm sorry that we have failed, that we've failed to keep temperatures below the agreed safe international maximum, which is clearly now not going to happen. We're not going to keep temperatures below that maximum of 1.5 degrees of global overheat. I'm sorry that we failed. And if we were to do this incredibly refreshing and rare thing of actually admitting that we're starting from a standpoint of a catastrophic failure, that governments have catastrophically failed to keep their citizens safe, and that we're now moving into a dangerous terra incognita, a hot new world, then that would be the way we might actually be able to start getting somewhere. Otherwise, until that kind of point is reached, until we unite against the climate failure that there has been so far, I just don't see these COPs as meaning anything very much at all.
Politicians aren't going to do that, though, are they? They never admit their own mistakes, which may be, as you've probably just laid out there, may be the reason that we don't move on very fast. And Greta Thunberg has said herself she's not going because she thinks it's greenwashing the whole issue. What does she mean by that? Does she mean that countries are just box ticking?
I think she means that. I think what she also means is that the corporate domination of this process has reached a troubling level, a very high number, for example, of fossil fuel lobbyists at these COP conferences. And, you know, I think the really crucial point is the first point that you made there, that politicians just don't do this. They just don't do the thing that I'm asking them to do. Or if they do it, it's vanishingly rare. But you know what? What people are really longing for at this moment in history is authenticity and truthfulness from their politicians to counter the kind of standard way that politicians behave. And when, on very rare occasions, you do get a politician who starts to cut through the norms and to be truthful, well, then you start to have a situation where the population can trust them. And that's, again, what people desperately want. They want to be able to trust their leaders. They want to be able to trust their media. They want to be able to trust commentators. And they really deserve that trust, right? We all deserve to be able to trust what we hear on the box, what we hear from our leaders. We deserve to be able to listen to what scientists say and know that they are telling us the absolute straight dope about the situation. It's the same throughout. There is a huge premium on truth and trust. So I think if any politician were brave enough, and this might start with some on the green side of the spectrum, for example, naturally, if any politician were brave enough to actually call it and to actually say, this COP process is basically pointless. We need something else. We need citizens to understand how at risk they are, and from the ground up to put pressure on politicians and everyone else to tell the truth relentlessly. If that were to happen, then that really would be an extraordinary game-changing moment. And I think the politicians that initiated that, if they dare to do so, would get enormous credit.
Look, we're almost out of time, but the problem is these are scare tactics, aren't they? And that never goes down well with the public. Don't you need to resonate with the public in a more positive way? I mean, things like, which works perfectly at the moment, we need to improve energy security, and the way to do that is to have more green, renewable energy. Now, that's something people can latch onto and say, oh, yeah, I can see the benefit of that, rather than just sort of doing a very gloom and doom agenda, which people quite naturally, in a way, want to reject.
Stephen, you say it's scare tactics, but look, I work at the University of East Anglia alongside some of the world's leading climate scientists. They are scared. They're the people who really know about this, and they are scared. I think that we need to see what people actually feel as well as what people actually think about this. And then that's a basis for moving into real action. We need it all. We need to know where people are coming from and what they are feeling. And yeah, we need to know what to do about it. We need to know what kind of solutions are out there in terms of, for example, a real massive energy, renewable energy set of changes, and not, of course, the fossil fuels which our government are continuing to double down on. But it starts from truthfulness. That was the secret of what was achieved by Greta Thunberg and Extinction Rebellion in terms of a wake-up call in 2019. It's needed again today. And on the back of that, on the basis of that, we can start to have real agitation for real change, including, yes, a massive renewables revolution.
OK, Rupert Read, we've got to leave it there, but good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.